So, this is just kind of off the cuff, but people are talking about Sonoran Desert Institute, which is an online school for gunsmithing, if you haven't heard. And I feel like I have a bit of a unique perspective on that as a concept, going to school for gunsmithing. Um, but before I really get into it, I just want to say I have not gone to SDI. I have not graduated from there. I have not attended any classes there. I did look into doing that, but I decided to go another route, and that's really what I'm going to be focusing on in this video. Um, I I think if you want to be a gunsmith, there's probably better ways to do it. You might ask why I'm holding a plumb bob. Well, I machined this plumb bob. This is my plumb bob. There are many like it, but this one is mine. This was made with a lathe. There's multiple turning operations to manufacture a plumb bob like this. There's also one milling operation, drilling the hole in the neck here, set up some angle plates, drill the hole to intersect with this hole. This was a school project, actually. I had to come up with a SolidWorks file, turn that into a blueprint, which is very easy to do with SolidWorks, but had to come up with a 3D model first, then turn that into a two-dimensional blueprint, and then actually manufacture the plumb bob. And using a lathe, I was able to do that. Now, this plumb bob actually got me a pretty good grade in the class. The professor said my knurl was really good, and by actually doing this knurl, I learned something very important, because first of all, once you start a knurl, you cannot stop, because if you stop and try to restart, you'll be trying to chase the pattern, and it's basically impossible. You'll just mess it up. It won't look right. It'll be overlapping. So what I learned is, obviously a plumb bob is small, and you have it in the chuck like this to do your knurl, right? Well, you got to make sure you have enough out so that you can get to the end of what you want to do. I put mine pretty far in the chuck, and as a result, I almost was not able to knurl this whole thing. But I made it work. It was stupid. I really shouldn't have, because my tool was getting very close to the chuck, But, like I said, I made it work. So, plumb bob's getting out of the way. Why? I think if you're going to be a real gunsmith, you do need to know how to use machines. Like a Bridgeport at a minimum. A lathe is like super important, like if you're really getting into it, because you may need to fabricate things. You may need, you technically, if you have a lathe and you have a reamer and everything, you can make a barrel. Like there's other things you need, but you could make a gun barrel if you had the proper tooling. Okay. I think it's also important because you may need to make a custom tool. And SDI is simply not going to teach you how to use machines. You're not going, I looked up their curriculum. I actually printed it out. There is one class here. It's FT 231. It looks like it's one of the last classes you would take. It's a 3 credit hour course on machining and manufacturing of firearms. A 3 credit hour course on machining is not going to teach you anything about machining if you don't have hands on a machine. You're not going to learn how to tram the head of a Bridgeport. You're not going to learn how to indicate your vise. You're not going to learn how to find zero. You're not going to know about different types of work holding and like really important stuff. They're basic things, but like if you can't indicate a vise, you can't do anything precise with a Bridgeport, which a Bridgeport is a very, very basic machine, and you can really only use it for basic things, but you can do a lot with a Bridgeport and like a welder, or like a Bridgeport and a lathe. Like those two things, you can make a lot of objects. Okay, mostly two-dimensional, but you can combine multiple two-dimensional things to create a proper three-dimensional object that you might need. Just if you look at how things are made, usually it's with simple shapes, which is interesting, but it is just a fact of the world that we live in. So I think if you're going to SDI, you're not going to end up being a gunsmith. You might be an armorer. You will learn about different types of actions, different types of guns, revolvers, shotguns, hammer-fired pistols, striker-fired pistols. There's a class for each one of those. There is a custom Kydex lab, which, okay, it might be important to make a holster, but I would never really go to a gunsmith to have a holster made. I wouldn't even think to do that. I would just get the holster online. I mean, obviously, I don't think you necessarily need a class on that to be a gunsmith. There's classes on sights, optics, and accuracy. There's a hand checkering lab. There's customizing and woodworking. That's a whole 4-credit-hour course. But machining is only a 3-credit-hour course. Just keep that in mind. The other thing you're not going to learn how to use with this class, as far as I can tell, is CAD software. And if you are into gunsmithing, and especially if you want to make something that is custom, you very well may want to know how to use something like SolidWorks or CATIA, or I know there's some like free versions of that type of software. There's Inventor, Autodesk Inventor. I think that's what it's called. Personally, I use SolidWorks. I use CATIA also at work. So I want to eventually start my own shop that manufactures gun components. But instead of going to SDI, what I did was I found a tool and die apprenticeship, and within that tool and die apprenticeship, I did a rotation in CNC, and I ended up really liking it, and I decided to just become a CNC apprentice instead of tool and die. Tool and die is really cool, and it teaches you a lot about handwork, like different grinding skills, and you will also learn to use shop equipment like surface grinders. Super important to learn how to use those, by the way, if you want to make something precisely. Again, something you won't learn from SDI, and something you absolutely have to have hands-on in order to learn, because a lot of surface grinders are really muscle memory heavy. Some of them are more automated. The newer ones, that you just kind of set it up and it'll go until you tell it to stop. But the older ones, there's like a crank, and you just go back and forth with the table, and you grind until you need to stop. Like, you have to, and if you go too far down, it'll throw your freaking workpiece like across the shop. So you have to have hands-on in order to learn a surface grinder. That's all there is to that. I think, so like I said, I don't even work in the gun industry right now. I work in the automotive industry, actually. I work for an OEM, and I'm not going to talk about the company I work for. It's a good company, but the point I'm making is there's a lot of apprenticeships in the auto industry, in the aerospace industry, for machining, for tool and die, for welding, or just different types of metalworking. All of them pretty much will get you some exposure to the types of machines you would want to use as a gunsmith. I decided to go like ultra high autism into the machines side of things, because that's specifically what I want to do. I want to machine custom parts and guns and different things eventually. So right now I just work with mills at work, but I would eventually like to get into doing all my own programs, and anything that you would really expect a CNC machinist to be able to do. I can do some things already. Like I operate a machine on the night shift by myself, and sometimes I have made some basic programs. I am not what you would call a programmer yet, but I will eventually be. point is you're just not going to learn those things at SDI, and maybe you're okay with that. If you're okay with just you basically are someone who tinkers and replaces parts, but you're not able to fabricate parts, you're not able to fabricate tooling or fixtures, you don't even like have a clue how that's done, really. If you're okay with that, then I would say go to SDI. I will tell you, I am friends with an FFL who started out the way I started out. He started out in the in metalworking trades as a machinist, and his gun shop is like literally right next door to another gun shop. They're in the same building, and the gunsmiths at the other gun shop who went to SDI go to him for help because he just has more practical knowledge. Like he's been doing it a long time, and he's got a ton of experience like actually assembling all sorts of different guns. He's got a high degree of mechanical inclination. He knows how to fabricate parts if he needs to. He knows how to program a CNC machine and make a part that he designed if he needs to. Like the guy is highly skilled. He's a skilled worker who happens to also own a gun store. And the other guy that works for technically the other gun shop is an SDI grad. I know that for a fact. And he used his GI Bill to become an SDI grad. And he can tinker on AR-15s and stuff, but he does not know how to indicate the vise of a Bridgeport. He'll never probably need to know how to do that, but if you want to be a real gunsmith and be capable of fabricating things, SDI is not the way to go. Find yourself an apprenticeship, even a real gunsmithing apprenticeship. There are still some out there. That guy, School of the American Rifle, like, okay, just this is an example. He uses a lathe to make those gauges. He does not buy those gauges. He makes those gauges himself. Because when you're doing it yourself, you can reach a certain dimensional tolerance that you're not going to be able to buy off the shelf. Like, you could, but it'd be really expensive. And if you can do it yourself, why not just do it yourself? Like, it is what it is. He has mentioned in his videos, using a mill, using a Bridgeport, using a lathe. Like, that guy's a real gunsmith. He did a real gunsmithing apprenticeship with a traditionally trained gunsmith. He works mostly on AR-15s in his videos, but I guarantee you, if you took that dude a broken revolver, he could fix it for you. Like, odds are that guy could fix it for you. He could probably even fabricate a part if he had to, if it was something within his, like, capabilities of his machine to make, he could make it, And if you learn CNC, you can make any part. I mean, especially if you already have a mind towards that, like towards designing and you're interested in how things are made, go into a machinist apprenticeship, go into a tool and die apprenticeship, go into, something like that. There's ways to do that where not only are you not paying money to SDI, you're getting paid. I'm in college right now for machining and for tool and die. Like I said, I'm transitioning into CNC, but technically a tool and die apprenticeship. I go to college and I go to work and I get paid to do this. I don't have to pay for any school. I do have to pay for my school books and everything, but that's a small price to pay. It's essentially a free degree in tool and die, or it will be CNC. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I had to say about it. I mean, other people are saying it too, but I thought you should hear it from somebody who actually, like Desktop and Focus Trip, they're making videos about SDI. Those guys aren't really machinists. Not that it matters. I'm just saying, like, they haven't actually gone to school for machining or any kind of metalworking as far as I know. So they can't tell you the benefits. Like, I get health insurance because I'm going to school. Like, like, it's great. I'm getting paid real money. It's like I'm not getting a small paycheck. Like, I'm getting decent cash. I get plenty of overtime if I want to work overtime. I'm getting a nice night shift premium, and I'm going to school for free. Like, what more could you ask for? Like, why on earth would I pay to go to SDI when I can work at a great company and make money while I'm going to school? And my boss, 100%, I told him in the interview what my intentions were, and he didn't care. Like, it wasn't he didn't mind that, oh, this he wants to learn this so he can make gun parts eventually. He didn't mind, because guess what? In the machine trades, in the metalworking trades, you're going to find it's very common. Dudes like guns. A lot of tool and die makers and machinists that I know, a lot of them are into making their own AR-15s, and I have known dudes who drilled out their own gas ports and done stuff like that. It's so simple, when you actually know what you're doing. It's so simple to do this stuff. Yeah, if you want to be a really capable gunsmith, I would say start out as a machinist. You can always learn the armorer stuff from just doing it. I think you can. It's there's a lot of nuance that you can learn from different books that you can just buy. You will already, just from working as a machinist or a tool and die maker, you will have a lot of the tools that you will need, just because you need them at work already. So you bought them for something else, and you'll have another purpose for them. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, it's not a very high production value video. Hope you liked my plumb bob. My professor did. It's a decent plumb bob. It could have turned out a little bit better, but I'm using the school's tooling, and their tooling wasn't the best. Like, this surface finish is it's okay, but it would have been better to have newer tooling. But it is what it is. I hope you guys take my advice. Get into the manufacturing trades. Make money, go to school at the same time, and get some stock, in the company you work for. Take some pride in your work, and, hopefully we can all make American manufacturing great again. My name is Nick. Have a good day.